Okay, good morning, everyone. So I ask permission to turn off the video first during the presentation, and then I will turn on later on due to the bandwidth issue in the office is quite a big deal right now. Okay, today I'm going to give you a little bit insight of the writing a good technical report. I believe this Bu Wiratni last week and probably the other already informed you that this is a good example and this is a good way for all of you to learn how to have a good writing and also the presentation later on after the meeting. So this is a good opportunity to learn everything that you can get. Uh, it's already mentioned here. So I'm from the class 2002. Probably some of my friends you already know. There are Pak Aziz dan Pak Rohim. Uh, this is my additional information. You can save my WhatsApp number and then my email also. Maybe you can keep this one because later on at the end of the presentation, I have like 5 rewards for the most active participant. And I will contact you directly. So please be sure you keep this number. So talking about the rules. So during the presentation, you can post your questions in the chat box. Don't forget to mention your name and what is the question. And also, if you don't want to write on the chat box, you can also deliver the question directly later on during the question and answer session. As I mentioned earlier, 5 most active participants will get some rewards. So please be active and be contributive. I believe the presentation material already distributed to you, so I will not going to talk very deep in the slides, but we are going to talk more about the case study and the implementation of writing, especially in the professional industry. Next week, I believe you are going to have another session detail about the Writing for the Institute for the educational background. For this time, I will show you about the oil and gas industry, about the technical writing. Yeah. So the first question, why we need to write a good technical report? I know all of you, when you have the opportunity to join to enter the chemical engineering university in Gajah Mada University, meaning that you are a selected person, meaning that you already enlisted as the best among the best in the best university in Indonesia. That's why you need to step up the game. So writing a good technical report, this is your chance to show your knowledge, to showcase your competency. In the industry, when you are already graduated and then you enter the professional career, the only way to show that you are capable of doing things is through what you produce. This is through papers or reports and the presentations. Because it will be very useless if you have the ability but you keep for yourself. You have to, let's say, you have to effectively communicate it to the rest of the world, so the world will know what you can do and what is your idea and what you can do for the society, something like that. So maybe some of you, maybe most of you, is in the earlier of the college years. It is semester 3rd or 5th, if I'm not mistaken. So this is the good time to start. If you are, we will see later on. If you keep, if you are shy right now, and then you don't know how to talk in front of the public, so it's something. It is something that you can change, and it is something that you can learn and to change it to be a better individual. First, let's start with the what makes a paper good. So the good paper consists of these significant points, like the title, the concise title, the outline is clear, and also the innovation. This is very important that makes the paper good. It has to have some kind of value added to the other people that will read your paper. So ensure that you catch the people attention to show your innovation or your idea. And then in order to writing a good abstract is like the concise summary. This is in the technical paper. It will start with the abstract. Abstract is like a 350 words that summarize the whole topics or your entire paper. So normally, people will see the abstract first before they are proceeding to the whole presentation or to the whole paper. So abstract is very important because this is like the first thing that people will see. Okay, if the abstract is good, I'm going to continue to read the whole paper. And also for the international forum or national forum like APA or SPE forum, in order for the committee to select the paper, they will see the abstract first. If the abstract is good enough or is excellent, it is never been presented or never been shown to the world, they will choose the abstract. So make sure the abstract is clear, it's not too short and not too long, and also the purpose is really clear, including the significance of your paper and then the information that you will state later on. This is the very strong word, a good paper, which starts with a good plan. What I'm trying to say is there are four phases in the writing a good paper. The first one, you have to be very careful, and also you have to understand what is the meeting or the journal that you are writing is for. And the second one, you have to be very clear about the methodology that you use. And then after you are having some detailed explanation about that, you have to move to phase 3. You have to present it. It has to be useful and technically sound information. And the last one, if you conclude the entire paper, it has to be supported by the solid evidence. This is some do's and don'ts during writing a good technical paper. Let's start with the do. First, you have to organize your thoughts, and then you have to compose simple sentences, and then use the common language, not the language that only you that will understand. For the terminology, the industry sometimes has a different terminology, but it is still fine if you are able to show the meaning of it. Proofread. It's 3 times proofread, so ensure you can read it easily and people will understand. And then clearly show your contribution that your paper will make. So this is very important. And what is the done? Because this is a professional writing, one thing that you have to remember that the grammar and the spelling have to be 100% correct. And we have to avoid the commercial or sales pitches. So meaning that you cannot sell anything through the paper, but you can show the case study and then what is good about your paper. Now about planning your technical paper, if you're writing a technical paper, you will start from this one. First, you have to organize your thoughts first, what you want to write, and then what is the sequence that I want to show to the audience of my paper. And then you have to review your list and resources, and then ensure you follow the manuscript template, because normally during writing a paper, normally from the committee, they will have some kind of template that you have to follow. And then you have to review it again based on the template that the committee sent to you. And then survey the existing literature and remember the ABCs. A is attraction, which include your title, the abstract, conclusion, heading, and graphics. Balance, it is have to be balanced between the technical content and also the writing quality. And finally, the content. Include the perfect amount of detail, which include the sufficient explanation of your method and practical application to your situation. Now I'm going to moving forward the 5 questions that you have to ask yourself before you proceeding with the paper. First, what lesson have you learned? And then what should the reader understand from your work? This is the takeover from your paper. And then what it makes different. and what kind of information that derive from the literature survey, and then who is your target audience. So target audience, this is a very critical part. It will be different about the content if you are telling the paper or the presentation to the college that understand your work. I mean, from the technical point of view, you have the same meaning. But remember, if you're talking about something to other people, especially non-technical people, you have to use the common language. I mean, you have to use the common terminology that they can understand. You can't be too technically because they won't understand about it. So let's talk about more about the remember your audience. So in remembering the audience, you have to be very careful when it comes to the audience. So you have to start with the what my audience needs. Normally, start from the problem. Knowing the problem or the reason you conduct the project is very important. The second one, after you know the problem, you propose them a solution. So what is the solution or what you've contributed to the entire why the audience, why I should listen to you, why you should listen to me. For example, will they make a profit from your idea or save the money because of it, or they can implement it somewhere in their work, something like that. If they are sure that this paper have the value added of it is 100%, they will follow it. Okay, I remind you, if you have some question, you can post it in the chat box. Don't forget to mention your name and what is your question. We will see right after the presentation about the question and answer. Let's start about the basic manuscript outline. This can be useful when you are writing the paper for your midterm exercise, I believe. So maybe you can use this one. So in order to have the good paper, you have to follow the basic manuscript outline. This is normally what we have in the industry. We start with the title, and then the abstract, as I mentioned you before, the introduction, and then the theory, the process, data, and result that is part of the analysis, and then going forward to the conclusion, the acknowledgements, and the references. We will see one by one. First, the title. The title is a very important part because normally people will see the title first. If it is interesting or it is what they need, they will proceed more to the entire paper. So you have to focus on the reader's attention on the content. And then for archive searches, because normally this is a digital era, you have to, if you search in Google, it will show directly the title that you need. And then it is succinct. The succinct is it is not too short or fake, but also not too wordy. Okay. For the title, this is some of the examples of good and bad titles. As can you see, the bad title consists of too many words. It is not really clear, but a good one is pretty much straightforward. You can see the example on the slide. So let's move forward to the abstract. The abstract is the 350 words. It's like a concise summary, and then it has to contain the paper objectives and scope, the methods, the results, and also the conclusion. And for the introduction part, it is very important. In order to have a good introduction, you have to describe your contribution and then clearly present the nature and scope of the problem investigated, and then state your method for the investigation and also justification. According to the Stanford InfoLabs pattern, 5-point structure for introductions are the problem, why is it important, why is it hard, why hasn't it been solved before, and also what is the key component of the approach and the results. Let's see one by one about the analysis. It's starting from the materials and methods. Papers will be differ with two different kinds. The first one is the theoretical papers, and the second one, the experimental or case study. So for the theoretical, normally consists of the hypothesis, the researches, and then the technical, the theoretical developments, also the arguments. And meanwhile, for the case study papers, it's most likely something that already exists and you implement it somewhere in your work. So it has to be the purpose of the case study, and then the procedures, the data, and the observations, is also the inferences. And for the result, you have to avoid using too many tables and figures, and also redundancies. Some guideline of the good result is a clear new important technical contribution should have been articulated by the time the reader finished this section. And then every section should tell a story. So it have some kind of continuity amongst others. About tables and figures, also use the templates that provided. Don't use very complicated figures and tables. It will confuse people even more. And for the conclusion, it has the short summarizing paragraph. This has to be, if people jump to the conclusion, they will see, okay, the conclusion is very clear, and then what you get from the paper, you will see from the conclusion. And for the acknowledgement, this is very important in the technical paper because you are not working alone. Normally, there are so many parties then involved in your paper. So don't forget to mention them. Or let's say you will have people with hurt feelings later on. And acknowledge anyone who contributed in the way. Through the discussions and then through the feedback on drafts, the implementation, and etc. And if you in doubt whether to include someone or not, just include them. And the appendices is something like the additional information that you need to show to the audience. Okay, when starting your paper, this is some kind of things that you have to be very careful. First one, you have to begin with the conclusions. You might think you should begin at the beginning, but in fact, you need to start with the conclusion. Focus on what you've learned. It's easier to work back from the known and build the paper accordingly. Describe how you got the result, the process, the methodology that you use, and present the theory that explains the process. Don't forget always writing a simple sentences. Use common terminology. Don't be too specific or too technical. Use the common things. And then avoid using directly promoting your company or your institute, or using your in-house jargon like motto or something like that. And then once you finish your first draft, you need to carefully evaluate what you've written. So if you finish, you have to ask a college who did not work on the project to read it. Then ask a college also who did work on the project to read it. Consider any feedback they might have on how you will improve your paper. And then you have to fill in any remaining sections. You read that one since your paper is completed. And then after every section is complete, the editing process begins. So you have to edit your paper several times, and then edit for clarity, remove on any run-on sentences, spelling errors, and everything. So cut the extraneous information is also needed and stick to the main topics. Ask the other people to read your paper for clarity. So this is very important. The next one is very critical. So as I mentioned, is no room for error, right? If English isn't your first language, don't worry. You have to ask a native or a fluent English speaker, one of your friends, for example, to read your paper and make some suggestions. And then you have to run a fee-based service to help improve the quality of your writing in English. There's some kind of run of spelling checker in the final paper, and then you have to run through. And ensure there are balance in clarity and technical content of your paper. This is some tips from the expert. Support your arguments with references, and then always keep your audience in mind, and then read your paper aloud to yourself to make sure it sounds smooth and consistent. Okay, this is the theory. So maybe you already got it and you already read from the presentation. I will move forward to the case study of this SPE paper. Let's see first. You still with me? You still copy my voice? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I will present the one of the case study that I've performed back in 2013 and 2014. This is the paper about the perforating technology. So in oil and gas industry, as a introduction, as oil and gas industry, so we are dealing to produce the gas or oil and gas from the bottom uh, of the earth or something like that. So it's like we have to drill like 4,000 to 5,000 meters below, and then after that one we have to make a communication between the reservoir that produce gas and oil in order to produce it to the surface. So you have several meanings in order to transfer the hydrocarbons from down below to the surface. So in well intervention, we're using the technology called the Warland perforating technology. So this is very critical in the practically for the oil and gas industry. Yes.
Excuse me, are you showing still the presentation or you already moving to the...
This is the PDF files.
Ah, no, no, you are not showing the PDF because it's still your
Oh,
PPT.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. It should be okay right now. Have you seen it?
Yes, 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 it's the PDF.
Okay.
Thank you.
So this is the example. So it was presented back in 2014 in Venezuela. At that time, this is very important because we are facing with the decline of the oil and gas production. So many of the industry searching the technology that can improve the productivity of each wells and minimize the operational risk. So this is the title of the paper. It is not too short and not too long. It mentions is Wyland perforating technology maximize well productivity, blah blah blah. It starts with the abstract. Like I mentioned earlier, it has to be have like 350 words maximum with the specific content. I will show you later on. And then we have the introduction. We cannot go one by one to the topics, but I will have the bigger pictures. I will show the bigger pictures of the paper. The introduction, and then it has the outline of the paper, as can you see here. The outline of the paper, we will show the audience what they will get after they read the paper, starting with the fundamentals, the technique, and then the differentiate with different techniques, and then the analysis that you use, and also the results, the post-perforating productivity, and then the conclusions. And then they will, starting with the analysis, and then they will get truly the pictures and then the tables, and later I will show you this is the simulation that you use. So I believe in our campus we use like the researchers something like that, so we play with data a lot more, so we have to show them the data, conclude what is the result of the data, and then what we want to show for them. In here, like the parameters, they have a simple table with the quite straightforward parameters. And then they will compare it to the simulation base, not too crowded. They divide it into several things like pressure, time, and then they move forward to the data. And then later on for the simulation, they use a simple thing so people will understand. This is the rate of the penetration that we can get. And the last one is with the production. This is the result. Also, the result, they just compare in a very scientific way using the actual post-job productivity versus the pre-jobs. So this is quite straightforward, and then going to the conclusions and then the acknowledgements. Now we can review once again the slides. So it's back to the slides. Can you see the yellow case study SB paper in your presentation slides?
It
No,
is
it's
still
still
the PDF.
PDF.
Oh, okay. I have to.
Yeah, I think you have to stop and then start again when you
Yeah.
change the slide, the file.
Okay. I'm getting used to it. Okay. So can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. This is the case study of the paper. So the first one, I made a simplified presentation format for that one. So what you remember from the lecture earlier, that the title have to focus on the reader's attention, and then when they search about what they need, this is archive. Sorry, it's so if they searching wildland perforating, for example, in the engine search like Google or something like that, the one petro, they will go directly to your paper, and not too short and not too long. And let's see from the abstract. Abstract earlier, I mentioned that it has to be consist of like 350 words maximum. It has to contain some of the information like here. We describe, in this paper, we describe operating technologies that help hire. So we describe a operating technology and something like that. We describe meaning that you are showing the audience what is your objectives and scope. Your objectives is you describe a perforating technology that will help the industry. And also the scope of work. It's clearly mentioned the case study in the Tunu field. It's one of the field here in East Kalimantan. Moving to the next section. The intervention technique, blah, 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 using the dynamic on the balance and then using the API RP19B section 14, something like that. So the next two paragraphs will showing about the methods using the dynamic underbalance and then use the simulation based on the API RP19B section 4. This is about the summarize of the data that you use in the paper. And the last one, it shows some data about the more than 500% of initial expected. So you're talking about the results and that is the conclusions. So this is the basic information that you need when delivering the abstract of the paper. It has to contain the objective and scope, the methods, and then the results and the conclusions. So I'm asking again, there are two kind of paper previously, right? I mentioned there are theoretical and experimental or case study paper. You think this is, what kind of paper do you think that this kind of paper include? This is theoretical or a case study paper? Anyone?
Should I pick a name to answer Mr. Rizal's questions?
Yeah, yeah, because I cannot see the names. I'm slide showing.
Okay. Nobody volunteer, and I will pick a name if nobody volunteer. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see. Let's hear Dinda Ambarsari. Where are you?
Hey, Dinda.
Yes.
Dinda. Okay, answer Mr. Rizal's questions.
What
Sorry, do you
miss?
think?
Hello, Mr. Rizal.
Hello, hello.
Okay, Dinda.
Yeah.
Do you understand what Mr. Rizal's asking you all?
I'm sorry. Can you
Repeat the questions.
repeat the
Mr.
question?
Rizal,
It
can
is
you repeat the questions, please?
the theoretical or a case?
What do you think, Dinda?
What miss? I'm not here.
So the question. So based on the abstract,
Oh.
red box below, you have to choose. This is the first one or the second one.
Which one? Hello, Dinda, are you still there?
Yes, miss.
Okay, is it a theoretical paper or experimental or case study paper?
I think this is experimental or a case study paper.
Is it correct, Mr. Rizal? Halo, Pak Rizal. Halo, Pak Rizal.
think he left the meeting.
When finally somebody answering his question.
I think so. I think
Okay,
he
let's wait
finally
for Mr.
remembered.
Rizal.
Yeah. I think when he join the Google Meet later, he will not be able to see the chat, but I'm going to repost
Yes.
the questions. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next. He's coming.
Sorry,
Okay.
something wrong.
It's okay. Could you
So what is
hear?
the?
Um,
Yeah, yeah, we can hear. I can
okay.
hear. So what is the answer later on? I cannot.
Dinda, can you repeat your answer?
Okay, Miss. I think that is experimental or case study paper.
Okay, correct. Thank you,
Okay,
Dinda.
good. We are proud of you, Dinda.
So yeah, this is a case study paper because if you see, it is quite specific. They coming forward specific to the name of the field, like new field. This is a good indication. This is the case study that you implemented in somewhere. And also for the part of the introduction, it has to consist of several information like this one. They explain about the technique that they will use. This is the nature and the scope of the problem investigated. And then also they mention about the method of investigation. And also in the introduction part, they show the contribution of you. Like here, I mentioned earlier that showing your contribution is very critical like here. We also describe how to mitigate operational risks, something like that. So you clearly describe what you have done in order to improve the innovation in the industry. So in experimental and case study paper, it has to be significant point that you have to conclude. For example, the purpose of the case study, and then the description of the procedures, and also the analysis of the data. And also for the results and the conclusion. I will moving forward because it's almost at the end of the presentation. We will proceed with the question and answer. For the results, you have to use the representative data. And then avoid too many tables and figures. One table is enough to show the audience what you can do. And the conclusions, this is only a short paragraph that shows your summarizing your content of the paper. This is the acknowledgements and also the nomenclature. We will have some kind of journal also to present. So the other thing is you have another platform to present right now, especially in digital era. You have some millennials. So maybe the presentation through the paper is quite boring because you have to read so many questions. There are some other platform that you can use. For example, there's some kind of forum that can accommodate, including the from the college. You can also participate in order to share your research results. We have the APA, Industrial and Petroleum Associations. It's content with the digital technical conference for people around the world to show them. My thing this year, I believe we have like 4 paper that already presented. They have so many forums like this. And also our internal, they have some kind of forum that accumulate that one. And also the publication that we can use everything right now, like the Instagram. This is a very powerful message in order to show to the rest of the world what we can do. So the innovation normally right now already posted and also in all digital platforms that we have. It's in YouTube, it's in LinkedIn, and Twitter, and the Facebook as well. So the question is, what are you waiting for? So start writing your paper now. This is differences that I get from the paper. It is officially from the Society of Petroleum Engineer Technical Publication Department. I took some material from the Stanford and also from the Washington Education, and also the Dave Peterson's writing advice. I think that's all for today. It's quite heavy, Wirati. This is for the like 35 minutes of the presentation. So the next 15 minutes, we are proceeding with the question and answer.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rizal. There are several questions in the chat. Bulila, have you reposted the chat or not? Bulila? Pak Ichal, because he got out of the Google Meet, perhaps he cannot.
Yeah, I only have one person.
Okay,
Okay.
let me check. Hi, Khairullah Ilyas. Where are you, Khairullah? Do you want to ask the question by yourself to Mr. Ichal?
Yeah, it has to. I want to hear the
Khairullah,
voice.
hello. Can you speak up to ask directly to Mr. Ichal? Where is Ilyas? Okay.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Yes.
My name is Khairullah Ilyas. I have a question. When I make an abstract, sometimes I stuck and have no idea, and sometimes I feel doubt my idea is too mainstream. Could you give us some tips to settle this situation, please?
Mm.
Okay. Okay. This is the good question, yeah. So
Yeah.
because as I mentioned, abstract is very important because this is like the introduction. People will see your abstract first and then they will decide it, and then I want to proceed more to the entire presentation or to the entire paper.
Mhm.
So first, if you are making the abstract and you have no idea, the first thing that you have to do is you have to be very sure that what you want to show the audience about what your work, starting from that one. For example, it is about your research results, and then you know the result already, right? If you know the results, and then from the methodology you will use how I get that result. This is the methodology part, and then the easiest part is going backward. This is the problem. So you already have the problem, you already have the result, and you have the methodology. I think that basic 3 points, as I mentioned earlier, will be a good exercise when finding the abstract. Normally, people will have some difficulties when writing the abstract is choosing the right words, because we have some limitation like 350 words, and then you have to what to write on the abstract. It's very simple. So you have to organize the thoughts first, as I mentioned earlier. First, you write the result. You have the problem, the results, and also the methodology, and then you will see. Just put the complete words in each section. The problem. Oh, this is the problem. Oh, this is the methodology that I use, and this is the result. If it's over 350 words, you have to short it into 350 words. So it is okay because you know the project and you know the results, you know the problem. It should be easy when you already know the guideline. So simple is define the problem, define the methodology that you use, and then define the result. Based on those 3 items, you will make a good abstract. Hope it's clear enough, or there's something more you want to add, probably? Hairullah Ilyas.
Hello, Ilyas. Is it clear?
Okay, thank you, sir. It's
Okay,
clear.
thank you for the questions, Ilyas, and the answer, Mr. Rizal. May I add a little bit additional
Oh,
questions
sure.
to Ilyas? when when we are going
Yes.
to write something, there is a thing, the so-called writer blocks. So it is like our head is full of ideas, but uh, for some reason it is very difficult to start writing. Have you ever experienced something like that, Mr. Rizal? And how do you overcome that writer's block?
Yeah, something. Uh, I have that issue so many times, ya Bu Wirati, ya. Especially if you have so many workload, there's so many work.
Yeah, exactly. That's my and Miss Lisandra's problem. So, what is your tips to overcome that one?
Normally, I'm the kind of person that normally organize things. So I make a priority list.
Okay.
Because normally if I have like 10 different tasks, if I just see it, I will I will get confused right away.
Okay.
Normally, I will classify the tasks based on their urgency and the priority.
Mm,
So
yeah.
the last priority one, I will do it later. And then
Mm.
one, so if there's some bulila problem,
Lila, Dr. Lila, do you hear that? Do you make priority of your
No,
work?
the thing is sometimes I want to multitask, but in the end, yeah, I I don't
Eh,
finish.
Okay, that's a very, very important message to all of us who are all very busy that we need to make priority, right, Mr. Nisa?
and also sometimes if you have, I mean, if you start on the idea and you can think about it, normally I take a step back. Normally I just leave it for a while, and
Hmm.
then I have some me time, just
Hmm.
watching movies and something like just to clear up the mind, clear up my
Okay,
mind. And after that,
I
when
like
I
that.
come to the work, I will have another idea. Something like
Okay, thank you very much. I like the part of me time the most. Okay, next question we have Pandu. Pandu, can you ask your question directly to Mr. Rizal?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Good morning, sir. I want to ask about the result part. In the second part, is we must tell the story, but I didn't get it. So, what it means? Would you explain it more, please, sir? Because I read some book and it said that if you want to win or reaching people attention, you must be a good storyteller. But I don't know it's applicable to paper too. Thank you, sir.
that. This is like, I mean, telling a story, meaning that when reading the full paper from the start and to the end, people will see it as a story. There is no information that jump to the other information, meaning that we have to be very consistent on the plot. I mean, you see, meaning, for example, your daily activity, you start from wake up in the morning and then you have breakfast and then you study and then you come home, you watching movies and then you go to sleep, something like that. It's one complete story. It's also in the paper has to be like that also. You cannot first start with the I wake up in the morning and then suddenly I jump to the okay, I'm playing with my friends. But in between, you should have some kind of other activities. People that see your paper and the very first one will get confused. What is the message of the paper at the end? So you have to be very sure that once you tell the story or what tell the paper, you have or you already have the roadmap. Okay, in this part, I will talk about this one. In this part, I will talk about this one until the conclusion. So you have to review it again from the beginning. Okay, did I already start it correctly? If there's some kind of missing or you switch the part, people will get confused. And the only thing that to know that you are having a mistake or not is to read the entire part once again, one and more. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Like I said earlier, if you read it, ask your friends if they understand about your paper, about the plot of your paper. It will make a good paper. But if they confuse, maybe you think it won't confuse them. But if they confuse, there's something wrong. So you have to double check or triple check the people that work on the paper or some of your friends that don't know anything about the paper. Just confirm by that, you will see that the paper is already tell a good story or not. Something like that. The analogy, I hope you get the analogy that I explained earlier. Okay, Pandu.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Berarti the question is very good. I am amazed.
Bu Iratni, you are still mute, Bu.
Yes, I'm surprised that today it seems like our students are very energized by your lecture, Mr. Rizal. Usually they are so quiet, but now there are a lot of good questions. Next question is from Fadli Al-Zaki. Hello, Zaki, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, ma'am.
Okay, please ask your question directly.
Okay. My question is, I'm I'm still in progress of making scientific papers, and I'm picking a particular subteam. But I found that in writing scientific papers, I find it difficult to determine the boundary parameters in my scientific papers. How do you determine the limit parameters in the correct scientific method so that the discussion section is not too broad? Thank you.
Yeah, this is the good one. This is like what I said earlier. Normally, if you start from the beginning, you will have some kind of confusion later on, because normally when we are doing the research, the scientific project, for example, we will use several different methods or different approach or different assumption or theories, something like that. Normally, we will get confused what to choose and what we use. So if you have the complete project already done, start with the result first, result and the conclusion. For example, in order to have the result A, I have like the ABC methodology. From based on the result that I want to show the audience, if you don't want to go broad because you are going to focus, because the paper have to be specific also. If you use 3 different methodologies in order to have the result A, for example, I use the methodology number B. Just focus on the B. Don't explain about the A and the C. You will make people confused about that one. So based on the result first. If you see the result, okay, from the result, I use methodology A. Okay, I will review in the methodology section, the data and the analysis using that only theoretical part. And then the problem is the easiest part, because normally in order to have the result, you have the problem earlier, right? So the thing is, just focus on the result first. And then in order to have the result, what kind of method that you use? If you have like 50, like 10 different kind of methods, just choose the method that significantly contribute to the paper. And later on, you can add one or another two, but focus on one. Because the question is here, the limit parameters, the correct one. So the answer is, yeah, starting from the result. And then in order to have the result, what kind of approach or methodology that you use. Don't use too many unimportant related methodology in the paper. You will get more confused if you start from the beginning. So my suggestion is going back. You have to start from the result, and then in order to have the result, what kind of methodology that you use, and then the problem, something like that. Hope it's answer your question, yeah, Zaki. If you're still confused, you can ask Bu Wiratni and Lila probably to help.
Hello, Zaki. Is it all right?
It's clear.
Okay, that's really a good
So,
questions,
thank
and
you for
very,
your kindness,
and
Mr. Rizal.
of course excellent answer from Mr. Rizal. Next, do we still have time, Mr. Rizal? What time is Jumatan in Balikpapan?
It's like 1 hour more. So.
Okay, we still have time, right? Because there are a lot of interesting questions, and I would like to give the student opportunity to get the answer from you. The next one is Henok. Are you there? Henok Reinhardt Alexander Sihotang. Hello. Okay, please ask directly.
Yes, Miss, I'm here. So good morning, sir. My name is Henok, and I would like to ask about the readability of the paper. So you said that you should constantly ask yourself to improve the paper's readability, but how do you know that the paper is readable enough? And what are the factors that contribute to the readability of the paper? Because when you're the one writing the paper, it is always readable to you, but how do you know it is readable to other people? Thank you.
Okay, that's very philosophical questions. It is interesting to hear your answer, Mr. Rizal. I cannot answer that question actually.
Okay. When you're entering the professional career in oil and gas industry, normally we have some kind of the people in charge when we publish something. So it has to be through their permission or something like that. Especially in Pertamina, in BUMN, normally we have to pass through several approval. First from our here, from the regional, and then has to go up to the corporate level, and then we have to go to Dirjen Migas, and then goes to the SKK and something like that. So if it's kind of like one or multiple audit or multiple reviewer. So normally in the professional career, your paper will have some kind of review for several parties. So if they don't understand, and if they think that there's so too many confidential issue that you show on the paper that will have some issue later on to the company, they will reject it. So the question in the professional career, yes, we can too have that one. But for the educational purpose, it may be something different. To ensure that your paper is readable or not, is simple. Show your paper to your friends, like choose five friends, and then show your paper to the English native speaker if you have some friends somewhere that English their first language. So if they can understand later on, meaning that your paper is readable enough, including the people that don't have the technical understandability like you. This is a good example. So if you, for example, you're in the chemical engineering, you show your paper to your friends in like economics or sastra or your teman kosan, something like that. If they know the paper content, and even though they are not really sure what you are talking about because this is too technical for them, but if they can see the story behind, they will still read it, something like that. But if you know that already that the readability of the paper, the good thing is you have to show your friends, your colleagues for the same. For example, you're from class, something like that. Your friends from the third semester or fifth semester or something like that, because they have the same understanding. They should have the same understanding like you, right? If they understand and they can read it easily, meaning that you are already success. So try to find the second or third opinion from other people. Don't read for yourself. You have to share it to the other people. When you are sure they can understand, then you can publish it. The answer is, the question is very good.
How's that, Henok? Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the highlight is, yes?
I think you missed one question there
Which
from
one?
Aliade. Next, yeah.
Yeah,
Before
this,
yeah, okay. After this.
that one from Aliade. Where is Aliade Rahman? Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please ask your questions.
Uh, Good morning, Mr. Rizal. My question is, sometime in the middle to finish the paper or essay, we are confused how to finish the paper. How next, Mr. Rizal? What should we do to prevent this? Could give us some tips to prevent this. Thank you, Mr. Rizal.
I already answered before you won't have this kind of difficulties if you start from the result first. That's what I'm trying to say. So, because the result is the important part, this is the conclusion that show the people that your paper is will have a needed value for them. So if you confuse how to finish the paper, meaning you confuse about the result, then it is maybe it's some challenge for you. So my suggestion is maybe you have to look after again the paper and start with the result first. Start with the result and conclusion first. Because in order to have people get the added value from your paper, you have to have the powerful impact for them, for example, for your SI. Because normally people will see the results. If they think that the result they can be implemented to somewhere, or they can use it in some other places, they will use it. So result is quite important. So my suggestion is maybe you have to redo the paper and start with the result first, and then you come to the methodology and then the problem. That's the most significant. It will make a significant impact to your paper later on. Okay.
Oh, is that Aliade? Okay.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Didas.
Okay, thank you. And we still have a couple of questions, I think. Yusafat Theo, are you there?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay.
So, first, good morning, Mr. Rizal.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
sorry that
sure.
I didn't type my question in the chat. Basically,
Very
what I wanted to ask is, how do you distinguish the abstract from theory and definition? Because I feel like some of the people they have the tendencies to confuse these two things, so that basically what they wrote in abstract they also write it back on theory and definitions. I could give you some example. Basically, if you're having a if you're writing an essay or a paper about oil, you have the tendencies to write uh, everything about oil in the abstract, and then you write it again on the theory and definition. So basically, how you distinguish these two sections apart? Thank you.
Okay. So this is case by case. Okay, this is a good question, Theo, or Yusuf Theo. Okay, when deliver the abstract, normally the abstract, because we have some kind of limitation of 350 words in the abstract, so we have to be very careful when choosing the right words. So what I did, normally I already have, as I mentioned a couple times, I start with the results. So let's say I want to show it here. So like the wall perforation technology, as I mentioned earlier, it will increasing the productivity like 500% more. So I have that one remark, important message that I want to show the audience. This is the impact of my paper. So I already have one good sections in the bottom of the results and the summary. And then I move forward to the part of, in order to have like 500% increasing of the production, for example, what method that I use? Because I'm pretty straightforward in the paper, I'm using the dynamic underbalance technique. So I will focus on the summary of dynamic underbalance technique that I use in developing the results. And I'm not choosing so many words. I'm just using the only the surface things. Okay, the dynamic underbalance. What is the meaning of the dynamic underbalance, or something like that? Because later on you will explain detail in the analysis section, in the data and analysis section. So in the abstract, you just need to show the audience what is the name of your methodology, and then what is the short description of the methodology. That's as simple as that. I have like 2 paragraphs maximum. And then the first one is very easy. It's only the introduction of the problem. And then if it's a case study, you will show the audience where you implemented this kind of technology, like what kind of field. I'm having the tunnel field or something like that. If it is a research, you will show the audience that what is the objective of your result, your research, so for example. What is the objective and what is your purpose of writing that one? So if you have that kind of understanding, you will have a good mindset like that. So this is very important. Choose one powerful impact on the conclusion and the results. In order to have the result, the methodology only summarize the methodology, like one big important methodology, and then the problem or something like that. So if you have a tendency to tell everything in the abstract, you have to step back first. And then you have to summarize more. Maybe you will have like 20 paragraphs long of the methodology that you use to develop your papers. The first thing that you know is, you know the big title, right? You know the method, the methodology name, starting from that one. Okay. And then if you have several procedures, you just listed the most useful one or the most methodology that you use. Just starting from that one, the name of the methodology and then the summary, and then the problem will follow itself. I hope it's answering your question. Yeah. But once again, if you're still thinking it is way too much because we have the 350 words limitation in the abstract, you can check in the words. You have like the tools, right, to show how many words already you have in the abstract. You can write from that one.
Okay. Yusafat, is it okay, or do you want to continue your questions?
Uh, I'm actually still a little bit confused, Bu Wiratni. So if I can conclude from what you're saying is that in the abstract we should tell the audience how impactful our paper is, and then in the theory we just summarize the methodology that we use. Or I'm sorry, because I didn't really get into what you were saying last time.
Maybe I will simplify this thing. Start from the result. So you know the result, meaning this is the important message that you want to show the people. Okay, I have the result. For example, for your research, for example, you develop the new technique for the biodiesel, for example. You develop a new method that I can use this for uh, machinery or something like that. This is the major output of the result. And then, for example, for the beauty, because this is my research also later on Bu Wiratno, KKN project, you know. And then from the methodology of the biogas, for example, I'm using from the peternakan sapi, from the farmer, and then we develop some kind of vessel. I just showing them this is the vessel that I use, and then what is the name of the vessel, and then what is the short summary. So from the methodology that we use, the like from peternakan sapi, from from the villagers, and then using their help. And then in the section earlier, I derived from the problem. So people have some kind of difficulties providing the gas for the industry for cooking or something like that, or something like that. So I'm meaning that if you know the result already, like, oh, I want to produce biogas. This is the result, and it can produce some kind of volume of the biogas, for example. And then move from the methodology. Okay, what is biogas? What is the vessel looks like? And then from the problem is because I have a tendency that the people still have some kind of difficulties. The village have some kind of difficulties of producing the gas, or it is too expensive for them. So we develop the system, something like that. So I mean that if you already describe it, and if you already have that in mind, you can put it on the paper. But maybe it's easier to say, Buya. But later on, when you have to deal with the real bill, you have to move back forward again. The other thing
Right.
is you're confused and you cannot go have a second opinion. Have your friends that expertise in this subject, or ask Bu Wiratni or Bu Lila, for example, to have a big view. Probably from the second opinion, normally I also have some kind of problem. If I think that it is not clear enough, I will have the second opinion. If they can provide me some kind of information, additional information, that it will help me through the entire paper.
Yeah, thank you, Pak Rizal. If I may add a little bit for Theo, uh, in my opinion, abstract should be the same thing with your other part of the paper, only that it is written more concisely, and you cannot just copy paste from the other part of your paper. So you have to really rewrite the abstract. Never ever copy paste any part of your other part of your paper to the abstract. Then it will make your abstract like quite differently said or differently written, although it is mentioning or it is telling the story about the same thing. If it is still a kind of difficult for you to imagine, then we are going to have some practice on that on our next class. So don't worry. I think learning by doing is much more easier than we are trying to imagining like this, right, Mr. Rizal? We are going to have the practice for that. Just be patient for next week. And actually, Bu Lila, and Pak Bayu will share homework assignment for you soon. So there are a lot of practice for you. Okay, we still have one more questions, and I'm very excited to hear that because it seems like this is a female student. Finally, we are going to hear a female voice other than mine and Dr. Lucendra's voice. Afisa, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, shoot your questions.
Okay, good morning, Parisal. My name is Afisa Konita. So Parisal, when we start to write some paper, whether it's for a technical field or just simple essay for a start, so I search through some literatures and find some other people works for building ideas. So maybe Parisal, could you give us some tips on how to make correct references so it doesn't count as plagiarism? Because I've heard that it is easy to fall into plagiarism when we first start writing. Thank you, Parisal.
Okay. Maybe I will show you something first here. Can you see the PDF file that I share?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, here. It's in the paper. It's called the references. So this is the number of references that I use when developing the paper. As can you see, it has like 2 pages long. So meaning that it is okay if you search some literatures in order to support your work, because at the end of the day, it will back to you. For example, we start from your result, right? The result must be different with the other location because you try it by yourself in your place, in your specific place. So if you already declare that, oh, this result is happened only in my case, for example, because I have a, for example, for the research, this is the study case that I have in my location. Or in my case, this is the location, the study case that I have in Indonesia, specifically in Mahakam. For example, like that. This is already differentiate your paper from others. So the result have to be specific unless your result is copy paste from other research, for example, like that. But it is not something like that because you already did it on your own, right? Nah, in order to have the result, it is okay to have some kind of the literature, some kind of like, for example, the formula, the hypothesis from other source, or something like that. It is okay as long as you mention it in the references basis. So, for example, it is way too much. It's like more than 30 references. If you have like 5 different papers that you use, just acknowledge them in your references. Don't forget to mention them. And normally in the reference, you mention it also, right, in the paper. So you have to put the bracket, the resource that you take it or from your references, and then using like that. So the tips is very simple. First, starting from the result once again, because the result is quite specific, because it's the thing that you work on, and it is only happen in your location or in your lab or in your work or something like that. And then based on that, you will develop the methodology based on the references from your literature or survey. So the tips is very easy for you cannot copy one by one the entire word of the paper. It is surely the plagiarism. But if you only take the like, oh, I will use this formula to develop my hypothesis, it is okay to have that one. Normally, you won't take only one paper as a source, right? Normally, you have some resources, different resources with different approach, because normally, in order to have, let's say, the research, uh, if you search the result in the Google, you will have several references. All the thing you can do is you look after them one by one, and what is the references that will support your paper. You only took the critical part of that references that can be used to your paper. Just mention I took this part, and then you will have that in the data and analysis. You show them that I took this part from this kind of references. It is okay in the technical journey, something like that. Here, for example, like this. The figure that we use when modeling is taken from the Harvey. So it is okay. So in the paper, I explain directly that this kind of methodology, I use the detail from the Harvey. And it is okay to mention this on your paper, on the references. Unless you already show the figure and then you're not mentioning any references, that's a mistake. So what I'm trying to say is, okay, I have these ideas from other paper and I use the same methodology that you use. It's okay to mention them in the paper, but don't forget to show in your paper as the acknowledgement, something like that.
Thank
Good
you, Pak.
question.
Sir.
Thank you. How do you? What is your nickname? How should we call you?
Afisa, ma'am.
Afisa. Afisa. Okay, Afisa. I think your question is very important for us in academic community, because plagiarism is considered as criminality in academic community. So this is very very important. And I think the lecturer, Bu Lila, Pak Bayu, and Pak Kompiang might prepare a kind of guideline for you all in the form of video and also example on how to avoid this plagiarism. We are going to post that in Elo once it is ready. Okay, before we end, any more questions? I think Afisa is the last question posted in the chat, but I still open one more question if there are any questions from you guys. No more questions? Okay. Bu Lila or Pak Kompiang, do you want to give a kind of concluding remarks for this wonderful guest lecture?
I think we can give the conclusion remark.
Okay. Next week will be your turn. Okay,
Oh,
Pak
me.
Rizal, thank you very much. Oh, Pak Kompiang, you are there, Pak. Okay, Pak. Concluding remarks, Pak.
Yeah, I have a little bit problem with like my camera. It should
Okay.
be on here, but it's not. It's not. My video is not on there. But when I switch to tab, that will be okay. But thank you, Isal. Thank you very much for your excitement. It's very wonderful morning, I think, and it seems that our student is really, really energizing what Bu Rani said, because it means that if we had guest lecture, so the student look like more enthusiastic, because they are maybe really, really boring with us. They know us for a long time, and it's good to have a fresh people from outside to give a lecture for our student. Again, thank you very much, and it is good communication with our students, and thank you also for the student for the all nice question and also excellent answer and tips from you. And it's not only good for our student, but it's good also for us actually, Isal. So thank you very much. It will be very nice discussion this morning.
Okay,
I give
thank you,
time back
Pak.
to Bu Ratni.
Yes,
Silakan.
thank you, Pak Kompiang. Before we dismiss this class, I would like to highlight two important messages from Mr. Rizal. The first one is that from Mr. Rizal, you hear that writing a scientific document is not only for academicians like me and Dr. Lisendra, Dr. Kompiang, but even as a professional engineer, you have to write a scientific or technical document from time to time. So it is also important for you now to learn how to prepare such document as excellently as possible, because you will be marked as the alumni of Universitas Gadjah Mada, and it will be your responsibility to maintain the good name of your university, including in developing scientific documents. Because scientific document will be there, your name will be there. If you are not doing that excellently, then people will assume that you are not as good as your true quality. And then the second highlight, which I consider very important from Mr. Risal Rahman, is writing a good paper or a good technical document is actually about organizing your thought. So here what you need to practice in this class is to control your mind, to organize your thought so that you can produce a very concise, clear, and readable document. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Rizal again. Thank you very much for your precious time sharing with us. Hopefully, it is not the last time. I mean, we would like to invite you again next time, perhaps for different classes. But this one is really very inspirational for all of us, including me. And for the students, I'm sorry I have to deliver a bad news for you because the lecturer is right now preparing assignment for you. There will be one, two, three, three assignments. So be prepared for that. We are going to post the assignment in ELO. Hopefully this week, right, Bulila? I mean today. Today is the last
Yes,
day
yes,
of this
yes.
week. We are
Yes.
going to post the assignment. Read that very carefully and mark your calendar for the deadlines because we have very tight deadlines for this semester. And if any questions about the assignment, you can ask in your WA group for each class. Okay. With that, let's call it a day. Thank you again, Mr. Rizal. Hopefully you are always healthy and happy over there in Balikpapan and also for all of the students. Thank you very much for this wonderful morning class. And I would like to end that with wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Makasih Pak Ical. Sampai ketemu lagi.
See you, Pak Ical. See you, all of the students.